There's something happening in the Christian world around us, in the world around us in general. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's something spiritual and it's something powerful and it's on the move. And I think if you're a Christian right now, you might be able to feel this. You might be able to feel things rising. Tensions, maybe. Positives, maybe. It's a thing with many sides. But I keep getting this experience from talking to people, not just talking to people personally. There's been a lot of that. And in fact, that's where most of it's coming from. But even engaging online, I've spoken with lots of people online who know that something's happening. Something is changing in the spiritual world. Something is on the move. And it seems like the forces of light and darkness are in many ways gathering up their armies for war. I don't want to be predictive of that. It could be early stages. It could be late stages. We don't know what exactly it is. I'm not saying it's the end times. I'm not saying it's anything in particular, but it certainly seems like something's happening. On the Christian side, we're noticing revival. We're noticing changes. We're noticing spiritualness. I've noticed a resurgence of spiritualness, even among churches where that's not commonplace. There's people having spiritual experiences, having dreams, having interactions, and having preparation for the future. In the same time, there's forces of darkness who are gathering up and cementing, and things that seem to be continuing to get only worse and worse. And in the middle of that, there's light uncovering darkness. There seems to be a spiritual element of shining light on the darkness. As the Bible says, there's nothing that's hidden that won't be revealed. And in many ways, it feels like there's dark things starting to come into the light. And it feels like the forces of light are starting to fight and engage with the forces of darkness. And it just seems like battle lines are being drawn. It feels like things are changing. In the local setting, I've noticed just resurgence, baptisms, revivals. You see things like that going on around the country as well. Increasing Christian church attendance, all of those kind of things are things that I think we're all noticing in the Christian community. People who have had spiritual experiences, massive spiritual awakenings and experience. I'm noticing it among young people. Huge amounts of education and knowledge and the ability to really engage with the spiritual side of the world, and people are waking up to spiritual realities. And in the global setting or in the national setting, we've noticed all these dark things happening. There's been lots of death and violence and wars and disagreements and all of those kind of things. But in many ways, it just seems like they're beginning to become uncovered. It feels like we're learning so many things, and the internet, being the blessing or curse that it is, seems to be uncovering so much of the darkness that was once at play. And it feels like people are not going to be willing to stand for the darkness taking control much longer. It feels like we're waking up to the reality that the world which is the enemy that Jesus talks about so often in the Bible, is all around us and is in control. There are elites and there are government agencies and there are other things that are in the darkness, in the shadows, engaging in dark practices that are not just in the pursuit of money and not just in the pursuit of other things, but we know that they're evil and they're demonic. It's something entirely different than just simple. We're starting to wake up to that. We're starting to see it. Things like the death of Charlie Kirk have been a precursor to this. There's so much movement going on with that right now and so many spiritual experiences. Importantly, Candace Owens just released, think what you will of her. This is not about that. But she just released texts from Charlie Kirk where he said years ago, I think it was in 2018, that he just knew and had been having vivid dreams of himself dying. And he knew that he wasn't going to live to see the revolution that he started come to an end, and he was thinking of himself like Moses. And I can't stop thinking about how powerful that is and how true it feels, because whether you agree with everybody who's, latched on to the death of Charlie Kirk or not, I think there's a lot of mix in there and a lot of mix up. Not sure about Turning Point, not sure about the organizations, not sure about the pastors, not sure about the churches who are jumping on all of these kind of things. That's not important. There has been a genuine sense of revival, not just around his death, but his death has been a big recent precursor of it, where people are going back to church and thinking about these things, and faith is on display and being talked about in the public eye so much more fervently than it feels like it was even 5 years ago. Spiritual things being talked about in the public realm all over YouTube, all over these communities. We're talking to people who are finally digging into the spiritual world and saying there's evil going on and there's forces of good that are fighting against it. It's kind of crazy to me. It feels like crazy things are happening. And I can't help but feel like God is saying, get ready for something. He's gearing us up for something. It doesn't have to be the end times. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be anything really wild, but there is some form of revival and the forces of darkness gathering. And so I think that that's something to be on the lookout for. So I'm curious if you guys are feeling that as well. Are you seeing this? If you're Christians, are you seeing this in the areas around you? Or if you're not, if you're political, whatever you are in your involvement, do you see any kind of, spirituality around you? If you're not a spiritual person, I would be especially curious to know if you're seeing this kind of energy where it feels like things are picking up and changing and like people are doing things differently, because I've just been noticing a lot of it recently. And I feel compelled to just say that things are changing and it's important that they do. I have a lot of videos on this channel about waking up to the spiritual reality. I felt moved to make those videos. It's not like I have a huge audience or anything, but it just feels like it's so important that we talk about the spiritual stuff and that Christians are waking up and talking about the spiritual stuff, because I think there is a spiritual movement. There's a spiritual revival of some kind happening. God is working. The devil is working and things are changing in the world. It feels like we were in a sort of stagnant period for a while, in the desert maybe, waiting or gathering troops or something like that. And it feels like things are heating up and things are changing. There's so many things going on. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have things like AI, and you have the young people in our generation not being able to find a job. You have a country that's like ready to explode on itself, and nobody can afford anything. Young people can't afford to buy a house and live the American dream. Nobody's having families. Nobody's having children. Nobody's getting married. There's a cultural explosion in preparation that I just don't see us standing for. I don't see the elites continuing to lie to us and the people of the world just standing for that. The people of America just standing for that. And I don't see them taking all of our jobs and ensuring that 50% of our young people who are fresh out of college can't find employment. I don't see people getting unemployed in mass amounts being replaced by AI and just sitting down and taking that. So things are boiling. Spiritually and physically, there's things boiling, and the country is boiling, and things are heating up. There's a lot going on. I've noticed an influx in my local church of people gearing up for something spiritually, and then in all the content online and all the things that people are talking about, there's just something going on. So I'm hoping you feel that as well, and I'd love to have a conversation with you about it in the comments. So let me know if you're noticing this feeling of these things going on, as if the world is changing. And things are happening at a very fast rate, and we might be moving toward something. I don't know exactly what that something is. I'm going to have to read the Bible more and think on it deeply, but it does feel like something is happening. And all I want to say is it feels like we should be a part of that. We should wake up spiritually, we should pray, we should read, and we should learn, and we should interact with one another and explore it, and we should be awake, in the sense of the end times, to whatever degree that is, or what that means, or how long that could be. Jesus says to be a watchman waiting at the door to make sure that you don't miss it. And I feel like that's the attitude that we should take right now, whether it's the end times or not. Be a watchman of spiritual reality and understand that something is going on around us. Don't be ignorant to it. Don't sit down and let it pass by. It's important that we engage and understand and explore. That was a thought that I had and an interesting experience that I had recently just thinking about this. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you are feeling the same type of things. Again, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you watching. This has been Credence Questions. I'd appreciate if you check out some of my other content on the spiritual world and things like that. I have a lot of things talking about that in a scriptural manner and exploring things kind of scholarly, just checking things like those out. Stick around on the channel, leave a comment, post in the community tab. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. You can also reach out to me in the form in the channel description down below. You can have a conversation with me, all of those kind of things. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you for stopping by. I look forward to seeing you again. This has been Credence Questions, and I thank you so much for watching.